Good morning, everybody. I'm Zach Blanchard, and this is Political Brew. I'm joined by our analyst, Democrat Betsy Sweet, and a new addition to the show, former chair of the Maine GOP, Demi Kouzounas. Good morning to you both. And Demi, welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Hi, Betsy.
Right off the bat, we have to talk about the shutdown. Full transparency here, we are recording this on Friday. Far-right Republicans in the House fighting for those deep spending cuts and border policy. This week, several members of Maine's delegation, including Senator Susan Collins, are really trying to find some common ground. Maine Democratic Congressman Jared Golden blamed Speaker Kevin McCarthy and even put forward a temporary fix of his own. Take a listen.
Speaker McCarthy is following a purely partisan approach.
Golden even went so far to say the Speaker is appeasing the far-right element of the Republican Party. Betsy, I'll start with you. Is McCarthy to blame here?
Well, I think the whole Republican Party is to blame in the House because they're so fractured. They have this, small cadre of extreme right-wingers who McCarthy had to bow to get elected, right? Remember how many times it took? He had to promise things. And so one of the things he promised was these spending cuts. So he's got fractures with his own party. But if he makes a deal with the Democrats, one of the other things he agreed to was that one Republican could cause him to motion to vacate, to get rid of him, which is new and unusual. So he's in this squeeze between what he agreed to in terms of to appease the far right and his inability to negotiate with Democrats, which I think he could do. But then people have already said in that far right contingent, they would say they would take him out. They would try and take him out. So, and I think he wants to keep his job more than anything. So I think this is definitely an internal fight within the Republicans. It's a political fight, and it's really about that extreme right versus the rest of the Republicans.
Demi, do you feel the same way?
Well, I think that in some instances, I think she's right. Betsy's right. But I do think that Republicans are really tired of having, our debt keep on rising. We're at $33 trillion now. We're going to add another $2 trillion. And so the conservatives are like, we got to stop the spending. We got to stop basically the continuation of these policies, which is increasing inflation. And so the conservatives are battling the liberals, and I think we're watching how sausage is being made, and it's not necessarily pretty.
Yeah, it's a here we go again situation. In the meantime, there are tens of thousands of federal workers in Maine that will feel the impact of this.
Yeah, and our military branches, people serving the military won't get paid. I mean, they'll get retro back, but they won't get their actual paycheck. Our parks will shut down. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going to happen, which is why the stakes are so high.
Unfortunately, though, the Ukraine army will still be getting compensated and everything else, so that frustrates a lot of other people on the right.
All right. Shifting gears now, the Maine State Nurses Association, which represents over 4,000 nurses across the state, is throwing its support behind Pine Tree Power. That's the initiative to create a consumer-owned utility to replace Central Maine Power and Versant. Just last week, Governor Mills asked voters to reject Pine Tree Power, saying it's too big of a gamble. But, Demi, these nurses say reliable electricity is a public health concern. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, hold your hats, folks. I agree with Governor Janet Mills on this one. It's a gamble. And I don't know if the state of Maine should be taking now I'm hearing it's $15 or $18 billion gamble on a plan that doesn't even exist on how to go ahead and purchase CMP and run it. So I think that there's a lot of people out there, we're a small state, they're watching this happen with no plan and no understanding, and I think they're feeling very uncomfortable with it.
Betsy?
Well, I think they're right on in terms of electricity is a necessity now. We're not in the days where it's not a necessity anymore. And CMP's record is horrible in terms of its cost and in terms of reliability. And so we got to look at the basic question before we look at the plan. We have to look at the basic question, which is, if it's owned by CMP and Versant and their job is to make money for their shareholders, that's their job. And providing us electricity is the way they do that. A consumer-owned utility makes sure that their job is making sure we get electricity. And that's the major difference. And so I think fundamentally, I think the nurses are right on.
But Demi, obviously, you have a problem with how we get there.
I mean, everything is done the same way. You want to go ahead and be successful so that you take care of your stockholders and everything else. We're a capitalist society, and having the government come in and hostily take over a utility company with no plans and a huge financial gamble, I think is the wrong way of doing things.
Well, and it's got to tell you something that they have spent over $18 million already, and we'll know next week. I'm sure it's way higher than that. In a state of 1 million voters, well, 1 million people, and way less than that voters. So what I mean, that's a lot of money to invest. So they must be doing quite well for somebody. And it's not necessarily us, because we are one of the worst rated utilities in the country.
They're feeling the pressure for sure.
Yeah.
All right, speaking of elections, another case of elections fraud in the state. A former candidate for the Maine House, Matthew Toth of Sanford, ordered to serve 10 days in an alternative sentencing work program this week. He pleaded guilty to charges of falsifying signatures to qualify as a clean elections candidate. Betsy, let's start with you. Toth obviously dropped out of the House race for District 143 after he was accused of this, but this seems to be an issue. This is the second time this happened this year.
Well, I mean, I think it hasn't happened a lot over the 23 years. It's been like 9 times. But I think this is awesome, actually. I don't think it's awesome what he did, but I think it's great. I ran as a clean elections candidate statewide, and I can tell you that process of getting the $5 and getting them registered, it's a big deal. It's hard. But the fact that the Ethics Commission, they get kudos for not only catching it, but following it up, because our public financing system is one of the most innovative and amazing things in the country. I think it's the way the whole nation should go. But so I think, you know, the fact that they caught him, he pled guilty, and he's doing, you know, going to do something. I think it's awesome, and it's kudos. I think it speaks to the strength of our system and to the Ethics Commission.
But Demi, should it be harder to get those public funds?
I think so. I mean, you know, it doesn't preclude somebody from developing a PAC and having tons of money come their way, with having a good friend have a PAC. And I'm not necessarily okay with clean elections the way it is. I agree, though. It was the right thing to catch Matthew, and we knew this early on, which is why he didn't finish his run. Right? We were able to recruit this candidate. With Representative Collmore, it was, you know, he wasn't caught till after he became a representative, and I think it was justly right that he should be removed from his seat. So if you're going to work with the system, you need to follow the laws. We're a nation of laws, and I 100% think the right things happened in this case.
All right. Back to the federal level, some history being made this week, despite the fact some are just saying it's a campaign stunt. President Joe Biden became the first sitting president in modern history to join union workers on the picket lines. The president joined United Auto Workers in Detroit.
So let's keep going. You deserve what you've earned, and you've earned a hell of a lot more than you're getting paid now. Thank you very much.
Demi, do you see this as historic?
I mean, it's historic, but I'm not sure what difference it'll make. The reason they're picketing is because they're panicked that their jobs are going to go away. We're headed towards, you know, we're being pushed towards electric vehicles. The batteries are made in China. There's less parts that are needed, less workers to make these vehicles, and they're worried about their jobs, which are high-paying jobs. The other thing is, I don't know how anybody's going to win this situation, because this could also hurt the car, you know, the car dealers and the car manufacturers with these, you know, 4-day-a-week and 40% pay increase. I don't know how that's going to happen either.
I think it was historic. I think it was smart. I think Joe Biden has always been on the side of working families and working people. And I think, you know, the gap between CEOs and what they get paid and workers in every industry is just getting wider and wider. And I'm sorry, there is no CEO who's worth 400 times more than the worker on the line. So I think I think he's speaking to that. And I think he's speaking to the nervousness of the middle class and the working class as we see it disappear, as this money just gets divided, and it's going more and more. You know, when 8 people have more money than, you know, 100 billion people at the bottom, something is really wrong. And I think it was good for him to stand for working people, and I think it's where his heart has always been. I don't think it was a political stunt.
And he's not the only one trying to take advantage of this moment. The following day, former President Trump had an event of his own where he spoke about the UAW strike, but it was at a non-union plant. Here's some of what he had to say there.
Crooked Joe is siding with the left-wing crazies who will destroy automobile manufacturing and will destroy our country itself.
Betsy, perhaps not a surprise here, he called Biden's visit a PR stunt.
Yeah, no, not surprising. But you know, the thing that's interesting to me is he is trying to appeal to workers also, and yet when he was president, he did policy after policy after policy that hurt middle class, hurt workers, and I'd like to know what his magic is, that he can still convince working people that he's on their side. He's a billionaire, or maybe he says he is anyway, and you know, and I think, and his policies totally help the infrastructure at the top. And so I don't know. I mean, talk about political stunts. His political speech and his political actions are totally different from one another.
Demi, I know you're a staunch reporter of the former president.
He got a pizza truck. He went over to Detroit. I have a good friend that lives there. He said he was very well received. He handed out pizza to the workers. And he said, is the economy better now than it was when I was president? Of course, everybody said no. And so he got pretty good praise over in Detroit.
But that's not true. I mean, the economy is better than when he was president. You know, I mean, so anyway, it's better for workers. It's it's better for taxpayers. But anyway, more jobs have been created under Biden than were ever created under Trump. So
after the pandemic, and we lost a few.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, but don't forget you can stream the full Political Brew episode on the new CENTER Maine website and mobile app. The Weekend Morning Report is back after this. Good morning, everybody. I'm Zach Blanchard, and this is Political Brew. Joining me this morning is Democratic analyst Betsy Sweet and a new face, former Maine GOP Chair Demi Kouzounas. Thank you both for joining us.
thanks for being here.
I want to start with this. Another person is looking to take Jared Golden's congressional seat in CD2. State Rep Austin Theriault announced his plans to run this week. Theriault, a Republican, currently represents several towns in Aroostook County. You might also know him as a successful stock car racer. He tells us he wants to be part of a new generation in Washington.
I've never backed away from a fight. My family's taught me that it's important to advocate for people, to treat people fairly, and so we're going to run a campaign with integrity. I think what we're going to see is people want politicians that are actually going to put people over politics, and that is my commitment to the people of the 2nd District.
Betsy, I want to start with you. Theriault is relatively new to politics. He's only 29 years old, but perhaps a young Republican here could be a tough opponent for Golden.
Well, yeah, and I think one of the things, a couple things is I'm very glad they're not running Poliquin again. Thank you. And I think, I think Theriault is running against a young Democrat. You know, it's not like he's running against an old crusty guy. Jared has been there twice, but he's not an old guy. He's a young guy too. And I also think that the whole people over politics message that he has is exactly Jared Golden's message. And if you talk to Democrats, a number of Democrats, particularly on the left, are not happy with Jared Golden because he has in his view, put people over politics. He has, not been a partisan guy at all. So I think it's interesting because it's a very similar message, and I just wonder what he thinks his breakthrough is going to be.
Demi, do you agree?
I know Austin Theriault. I just talked to him yesterday. I'm excited he's jumped into the race. I think it's going to be a fun CD2 race. He's authentic. He's young. He's wide-eyed, and I think that's going to be refreshing to people, especially in this turmoil. Jared Golden, for example, at this point is signing with the Democrats on this budget and wants more spending. I hope people out there realize that we want cuts. And I think CD1, 2 may be in play with Andrew Piandadosi. So I think we're going to have an exciting election cycle, and I think Austin may do quite well.
And there are 3 other challengers in the race, we should notice,
Yes.
Including State Representative Michael Sobolewski, Robert Cross, Kevin Ball. Are you expecting a crowded field for this?
I mean, I think on the Republican side, they can't quite figure out who. I think they're putting a lot of spaghetti on the wall to figure out who might beat Jared Golden. And I think, who knows?
And the process occurs the way it's supposed to, which is we're going to let the people decide who they want their nominee to be. But I'm excited about the prospect of having really good candidates.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Speaking of some Republican opposition, in Washington, the impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden is officially underway. They're focused on his son Hunter, trying to make the case he may have benefited from his business dealings in some way. While they have yet to present any solid evidence, members say there is a, quote, mountain of it. Demi, this is still in the early stages. Do you really think they have something here?
Well, I can tell you what I hear. I hear people going, let me see if I understand. Hunter Biden made $20 million. Used 20 different shell companies, and he's a drug addict. How did that exactly happen? Doesn't pass a smell test. So people are trying to figure out what's going on. An impeachment inquiry allows more, if you will, resources. It allows for subpoena power, allows for more investigation to occur. And we need to find out if President Biden was not involved. Great, I'm happy with that, because I don't want any more corruption. If he was involved, then we need to know about it as the people.
Betsy, couldn't the president just come forward and say, there's nothing wrong here. There is something like
He has said that. He said, I have nothing here. And I think we have to look at this impeachment inquiry for exactly what it is. It's a political play by McCarthy, who is trying to get those 20 right-wing Republicans that we talked about with a shutdown. He's trying to get some wiggle room from them by saying, oh yeah, let's impeach the president. Get a little wiggle room from them to do things on the budget, on other things. And it's not working. I don't think it's working for him. But I think that's exactly what this is about. This is not about Hunter Biden. This is not about Joe Biden. This is such a stretch.
Bigger picture here, though, if there is a there, is impeachment the route to take? There are other ways to handle this kind of thing. Do you agree, Demi?
I mean, obviously, we're headed for an election year, so the people will handle this, but they need to have the information. I mean, you run a good campaign when you know the information out there. You get $20 million and nobody pays taxes on that. God forbid if we went ahead and earned $100,000 and we didn't pay the IRS for it. We've had IRS whistleblowers involved. Something's not right. It doesn't pass a smell test, and I think the people need to know.
Well, but also, how responsible is a parent for their adult child? I mean, at some point, your kid's 40 years old. I don't know how old Hunter is, but at some point, I don't feel responsible for my adult children's actions. I would like to help. I would like to hope that they're going to be good people, but
some of the $20 million was given to grandchildren, given to uncles and other.
I think we'll find out. Moving on now. In case you missed it, Republican presidential hopefuls went head-to-head in their second debate the other night, focusing on everything from border security to the economy. Some saying it was a big night for Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Chris Christie, but once again, the front-runner wasn't even there.
You're not here tonight, not because of polls and not because of your indictments. You're not here tonight because you're afraid of being on the stage and defending your record.
Donald Trump is missing in action. He should be on this stage tonight.
Betsy, this is round two. Nobody really seems to be gaining any traction. What is the strategy for these candidates?
I mean, I think they're just poking, trying to figure out, can one of us break through? And I think they're trying to position themselves in the case, in the event that, Trump is indicted, that he goes to jail, that he, it remains to be seen whether people would still vote for him. I don't know. I don't think the majority of the country would vote for him. And I think they're all trying to position themselves as the breakthrough candidate if something happens to Trump. There is no doubt that Trump is the front runner. I think that it's incumbent on the Republicans to say to Trump, hey, this is a democratic process. You need to participate in this process. This looks terrible. And the idea that Trump just gets to be the dictator of the Republican Party, I don't think that's a good look for the Republicans.
And Demi, I know you've been a very vocal supporter of the former president, but why skip the debate here? It's part of the process.
It's working, right? Yeah, I mean,
but it's still part of the process.
It's not democracy.
It's not saying that he's not going to join into the debate process, probably the third, fourth, and fifth debate. The other thing, too, he's had a gag order put on by the judges, so he can't speak about certain issues, and of course they're going to be poking him on that. I think you have the rest of the group just not really able to excite the crowds like President Trump has. And I watched the debates.
But if he was there, those crowds might be excited.
Oh, and I went to the first debate. I mean, I went to Milwaukee. It was exciting. I loved listening to the crowds when they were yay or booing, certain candidates. But at the end of the day, we all feel that we have a winner. And right now, polling shows that President Trump could actually beat President Biden. So, we're going to stick to our winner.
But can we just say, I'm sorry, he can't participate in the debate because he's under indictment and he can't speak about certain things. The guy has a criminal record. Like imagine. I'm sorry. That just it still boggles my mind. But that the guy is under indictment in many places for many different things, so he can't participate in the very foundation of democracy, which is debate and open conversation, because he can't speak about the many, many lawsuits that he's involved in. It just boggles the mind.
And once again, I don't blame him. Let's see if President Biden goes on a debate with John Kennedy Jr. Robert Kennedy Jr. Let's see if he debates.
Yeah, no, I think he should. I think he should do that too.
Well, let's watch
he and
this.
Marianne Williamson, they should all be up there. I agree.
How much of a bet there won't
Good
be?
for both sides.
Finally, winners and losers. Demi, we'll start with you.
My loser will be Chris Christie. I think he always kind of, thinks that Donald J. Trump should not be calling people names and using names, and yet he used the term Donald Duck. And to that, I would say, Disney, did you hear Donald Duck? Probably not a good thing to say. My winner is going to be Senator Dianne Feinstein. She was a trailblazer. I, as a young woman going to University of Maine-Orono, was probably a women's liber, and I really wanted women to excel. And here's a woman that has. She's a groundbreaker, and for that, my hat's off to her.
Betsy?
Great. So my loser is the campaign against question 3 for spending the amount of money that they're spending creating, and there was this article in the paper about they're creating not quite truths. And so I just think that just regardless of the issue, the amount of money being spent is obscene. So they're my loser of the week. My winner of the week, in addition to Dianne Feinstein, is the Common Ground Country Fair, which was last weekend, broke all records, which spends time teaching people how to be organic farmers, how to do renewable energy, be kind to the earth and each other, and it is amazing. And they pull it off without a hitch.
We love fair season in Maine. Betsy, Demi, thanks so much for being with us. And that's going to do it for this week's Political Brew. Don't forget, you can catch the new host of Meet the Press, Kristen Welker, this morning at 9 o'clock right here on News Center Maine. But before we go, we want to recognize the passing of Senator Dianne Feinstein. Senator Feinstein was served as California's senior senator since 1992 and was seen as a trailblazing woman who advocated for gun safety legislation and worked across the aisle to find some common ground. She was 90 years old.